If you've seen Martin Scorsese's movie Gangs of New York, you may already be familiar with what Little Italy used to look like before it was known by that name. Spurred on by the Irish potato famine of the 1840s, waves of threadbare immigrants arrived in New York City with the necessary means for only the most miserable lodgings, the drooping tenements of 5 Points. For the next 2 decades, the Irish ruled 5 Points, overcrowding a roughly 5-square-block area centered on the intersection of
Mulberry Street and Worth, Cross and Orange and Little Water. Each of the 5 points is a finger. When I close my hand, it becomes a fist. And any time that I wish, I can turn it against you.
The 5 Points, Paradise Square. Streets here are always lively of an evening.
In 1860, only about 1,400 New Yorkers were of Italian descent. Most of them made a living as dock workers, fruit vendors, organ grinders, or rag pickers, while living in the decaying 5 Points slum. However, in the 1860s, a wave of immigration from Italy began that became a flood by the end of the century. The mass immigration led to the large settlement of Italian immigrants in Lower Manhattan. In 1910, Little Italy had almost 10,000 Italian. That was the peak of the community's Italian population. Like most immigrants facing language and cultural barriers, the Italians created ethnic enclaves. The first communities were centered on Mulberry Street north of the 5 Points in the Greenwich Village and East Harlem. By 1930, New York City was home to over 1 million Italian Americans, more than Italians living in Rome at that time.
Granito e gelato fresco, rinfrescatevi lo stomaco. Granito e gelato fresco, rinfrescatevi lo stomaco. Hey, Pasquale!
Mafia groups in the United States first became influential in the New York City area, gradually progressing from small neighborhood operations in poor Italian ghettos to citywide and eventually national organizations. The Black Hand was a name given to an extortion method used in Italian neighborhoods at the turn of the 20th century.
Oh, I have some more foreign stamps for little Francesco. Where is Francesco?
He's away, Bella. Away for a couple of days.
Vacation. The country. The air.
The air.
School just started and he's on vacation, huh? Day before yesterday, Mr. Donetta came into the bank. Took out a lot of money. And Francesco's away.
Who took? Who? They must have given you somebody to pay off to.
Johnny, you're crazy. They'd kill him. If we tell anybody, they'd kill him.
They're watching. Right now. Please, get out of here.
Nino, we'll set a trap. Will
Johnny,
you pay off?
Johnny's just a little child, 10 years old. We don't want no traps. We want our Francesco. We want him back.
The first movie about the Black Hand was made as early as 1906.
Well, maybe a few facts before Johnny comes. A few facts about the Black Hand. There ain't no such thing. The Black Hand. Neighborhood gangs, that's all they are. They all have criminal records back in Italy. They were in the Camorra in Naples and the Mafia in Sicily. They come over here, nobody knows them because Johnny can say it better than me. He's alive.
His leg. Look at his leg.
I'll go get Dr. DiMattei.
This takes care of your league, Louis, and they didn't waste a murder on it.
And I thought this time, sure.
They're smart, Louis. Smart.
Yeah.
One of these groups was headed by Ignazio Lupo, who ran the racket in Little Italy from a saloon he owned on 8 Prince Street.
Carla, vattene da qua.
Ah, che betta. Tu sei caffè. Sto bella facciuzza.
Mia l'unica figlia. Lasciala lì. Per piacere, lasciala lì. Lasciala lì. Pigliati tutti i soldi, dai. Pigliati tutto quello che vuoi, vai.
No. 20. 20 ma 40. Vito, come here. Come on.
The character of Don Fanucci in The Godfather Part 2 is based on Ignazio Lupo.
Senza rancore, eh? Se ti può aiutare, fammelo sapere. Tu ti facesti a conoscere. A divertiti a festa.
Hola.
This entire sequence of The Godfather is filmed on location in Manhattan, between 2nd Avenue and Little Italy.
Angela da appartiene a me. Ah, mia! Ma che si può parlando? Fatti! Che stai facendo con Paradino?
in nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen.
We're fine.
It was not until the 1890s that we find the first Italian organized crime family. It was the Morello crime family, named after Giuseppe Morello, who came to the United States on the run from Corleone in Sicily, after committing murder for the local mob. Ignazio Lupo married Morello's sister and entered the clan, who dominated Manhattan from Harlem, then a major Italian enclave, to Mulberry Street. By 1905, Morello had created the largest, most influential Sicilian crime family in New York City and was recognized as Capo di tutti i capi, boss of all bosses, by mafia leaders in other U.S. cities. The police force could very little to bring these people to justice because the mobsters were well connected and their victims abided by the unwritten law of omertà, remnant of the old country.
Nobody knows your faces in Little Italy. That's why you're brought in from precincts like North Beach, Canarsie. This is your squad room.
Until an Italian immigrant, Giuseppe Petrosino, joined the NYPD in 1883 to soon become the Black Hand's worst enemy. He was a pioneer in the fight against organized crime. The various crime-fighting techniques that Petrosino pioneered during his law enforcement career are still practiced today by various agencies. The pinnacle of his career came in December 1908 when he was promoted to lieutenant and placed in charge of the Italian Squad, an elite corps of Italian-American detectives assembled specifically to deal with the criminal activities of organizations like the Black Hand, which Petrosino saw as a shame upon decent Italians and Italian-Americans.
Get yourselves liked. Get the confidence of our people. Find out who's paying off to who. We've got to make arrests and make them stick. I have identified many of Little Italy's black-handers who are wanted by the police here.
In 1909, Petrosino made plans to travel to Palermo, Sicily, on a top-secret mission. Petrosino was armed with a long list of known Italian criminals who had taken up residence in the United States and intended to get enough evidence of their criminal past to throw them out of the country once and for all.
Dear Johnny, I have found him. Zarillo is Raffaele Pascali. Who is capo mafioso in Brooklyn?
Unfortunately, the local mafia knew about Petrosino's mission.
Romero. You know already these names, huh?
Some. Do these men in America, the capo mafioso, other mafioso, do they get their orders from the council here?
You have all that information? Have you been told who is capo mafioso here?
No. The police don't know that. But I was told you did. Do you?
I am. And you have reached the end of your journey. No, you might as well finish your meal. You have heard of that tradition, have you not? I offer to let you eat first. Buonasera, signore.
Buonasera. Buonasera, signore.
Buonasera, schifoso.
Lieutenant Joseph Petrosino was killed in an ambush in Palermo, Sicily, on March 12, 1909. Morello and Lupo were found guilty of counterfeiting in 1909 and were both sentenced to 20 years in prison. Morello lost his official position as boss of New York and all the influence he once held. With him in prison, the Morello family organization lost most of its power. Many of its captains left the family to form their own organized crime families. Newly released from jail in 1920 and trying to retake control of his empire, Morello found himself considered a threat to his former captain, now turned mafia boss Salvatore D'Aquila, who within a year of Morello's release ordered him killed. Umberto Valenti was put in charge of the murder. Morello briefly regained control of his organization and sought protection with another of his former captains, Giuseppe Masseria, who in the meantime had also formed his own family. A war issued between the clans, which, after much bloodshed, ended with the murder of Umberto Valenti, carried out by one of Masseria's young soldiers by the name of Charlie Luciano, who will go on to become one of the most influential mobsters of all time. In the following years, he will have a fundamental role in shaping the organization of the mob in the United States.
Well, who's his friend, huh?
Arnold Rothstein. Come on in, fellas. I want you to meet the genius who fixed the World Series, Mr. Arnold Rothstein. This here's Charlie Luciano.
Arnold Rothstein, nicknamed the Brain, was an American racketeer, businessman, and gambler who became a kingpin of the Jewish mob in New York City at the beginning of the 20th century. Rothstein transformed organized crime from a thuggish activity by hoodlums into a big business, run like a corporation, with himself at the top. He was the person who first realized that prohibition was a business opportunity, a means to enormous wealth. He also understood the truths of early century capitalism, giving people what they want, and came to dominate them.
Next. What's the secret of America?
What's the matter with this guy? I'm 24 years old.
Money! Everything is money, Charlie. Don't ever forget it. But you'll never make any money.
Why is that?
Because you dress like a schmuck.
Rothstein took Luciano under his wing and taught him everything he knew.
Let's do some business.
As a teenager, Luciano started his own gang and was a member of the old 5 Points gang. By 1920, Luciano had met many future mafia leaders, including Vito Genovese, Frank Costello, Bugsy Siegel, Meyer Lansky, his longtime friends and future business partner through the 5 Points gang. The same year, Lower Manhattan gang boss Joe Masseria recruited Luciano as one of his gunmen. With financial help from Rothstein, Luciano and his associates started their own bootlegging operation. By 1925, Luciano was grossing over $12 million a year. He had a net income of around $4 million each year after the cost of bribing politicians and police. Luciano soon became a top aide in the Giuseppe Joe the Boss Masseria organization.
I'm ready. I'm always ready.
In contrast to Rothstein, Masseria was an uneducated man with poor manners and limited managerial skills. By the late 1920s, Masseria's main rival was boss Salvatore Maranzano, who had come from Sicily to run the Castellamarese clan activities. Maranzano refused to pay commissions to Masseria. The rivalry eventually escalated into the bloody Castellamarese War, 1928 to 1931, and ultimately resulted in the deaths of both Maranzano and Masseria, both masterminded by Charlie Lucky Luciano himself.
I gotta take a leak, huh?
Joe, this ain't number 16.
Si deve stare sempre dalla parte del potere, perché solo così si può stabilire un equilibrio di un mondo come si vuole. E l'uomo, per essere uomo, deve essere un uomo d'ordine.
Io direi piuttosto un uomo di pace.
Five months after Joe Masseria's elimination, on September 11, 1931, known as the Day of the Sicilian Vespers, 40 bosses were murdered all over the United States. The strategist of the extermination of the old mafia was Lucky Luciano. The Night of the Sicilian Vespers was also the inspiration for the final montage of Coppola's The Godfather.
Exia Deo, et mundi spiritus et allocum spiritui sancto paraclito. Oremus, precious nostus, per Christum Domine nostrum. Amen. Michael, crucis Domine in impressiones signatum, od magnitudines gloria tua rudimenta servans, per custodia mandatorum tuorum, ad regenerationis gloriam pervenire meriato, per quiendum Christum Dominum nostrum. Amen. Oremus omnipotens sempiterne Deus, Pater Domini nostri Iesu Christi respice dignatus super hanc famulum tuum Michael, qui venturus est judicari vivus et mortus in saeculum perennium. Amen. Michael, accipe sal sapiense propitiasse si tibi in vitam aeternam. Amen. Deus omnipotens Pater Domini nostri Iesu Christi, qui Dei regenerabit ex aquae Spiritus Sancto, qui de debitivi remissionem omnium peccatorum, iste te lineat Chrisma te salutis in eiodum Christo Iesu Domine nostrum, in vitam aeternam. Amen. Ego te linea oleo salutis in Christo Iesu Domine nostrum, rabias vitam aeternam. Amen. Credes in Spiritum Sanctum, Sanctam Ecclesiam Catholicam, Sanctorum Communionem Remissionem Peccatorum, carnes resurrectionem et vitam aeternam. Credo. Exorcisse te mundi spiritus in nomine Patris, et Filii, et Spiritus Sancti, ut exias et recedes ab hoc famulum Dei Michaeli, isienem tibi impere maledictit damnata. Effrata quores ad aperire, in dona suavitatis, tuatum effulgar diabli apocunquabit eum judicium Dei. Michael, do you believe in God, the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth?
I do.
Do you believe in Jesus Christ, his only Son, our Lord?
I do.
Do you believe in the Holy Ghost, the Holy Catholic Church?
I do.
Pater noster, qui es in caelo, sanctificetur nomen tuum, adveniat regnum tuum, fiat voluntas tua sicut in cielo et in terra. Panem nostrum quotidianum da nobis hodie, et dimitte nobis debita nostrum, sicut in nos dimitibus debitoribus nostris, et ne nos inducas in tentationem, sed libera nos a malo. Amen. Michael, ingredere in templum Dei, ut habeas patem cum Christo in vitam aeternam. Amen. Credo in Deo Pater omnipotent, Creatorem Caeli et terrae, et in Iesum Christum Filii eius unigenitum Dominum nostrum, qui conceptus est Dei Spiritus Sancto, natus ex Maria Virgine, passus sub Pontius Pilatus, crucifixus mortus et sepultus, descender ad inferos, tertia die resurrexere ad mortus, ascender ad caelos, seder ad extra Dei Patris omnipotente, inde venturus est judicare vivus et mortus, credo in Spiritus Sancto, Sanctam Ecclesiam Catholicam, Sanctorum Communionem, Remissionem Peccatorum, Canus Resurrectionem, Vitam Aeternam. Amen. Michael Francis Rizzi, do you renounce Satan?
I do renounce him.
And all his works?
I do renounce them.
And all his pomps?
I do renounce them.
Michael Rizzi, will you be baptized?
I will.
In nomine Patris, et Filii, et Spiritus Sancti. Michael Rizzi, go in peace, and may the Lord be with you.
Luciano, at the end of the bloody war, came up with the idea to set up a commission to serve as the governing body of organized crime, designed to settle all disputes and decide which family controlled which territories. The commission has been called Luciano's greatest innovation. Luciano's goals with the commission were to quietly maintain his own power over all the families and to prevent future gang wars. The commission was originally composed of representatives of the 5 families of New York City: the Philadelphia crime family, the Buffalo crime family, the Los Angeles crime family, and the Chicago outfit of Al Capone. Later, the Detroit crime family and Kansas City crime family were added. The commission also provided representation for the Irish and the Jewish criminal organization in New York. All commission members were supposed to retain the same power and had 1 vote. In reality, Luciano and his allies controlled the commission.
So if you ain't doing it, who's gonna be?
Nobody. We're all bosses here.
So what then, Charlie? We're gonna vote on everything?
That's right, Joe. Everybody here is equal.
Corporations have a board of directors. So will we. A commission.
In New York City, Lucky Luciano incorporated 5 street gangs into a single unit and divided up the territory of the city. These gangs became the 5 families: Bonanno, Profaci, Mangano, Luciano, and Galliano. They were governed by the commission, and the commission got to say who lived and who died. In 1936, U.S. Attorney Thomas Dewey succeeded in convicting Luciano on 62 counts of compulsory prostitution.
Luciano is widely regarded as the most important racketeer in the country. And this case involves one of the most loathsome of crimes, exploiting the most vulnerable, downtrodden women in our society.
Luciano was sentenced to 30 years in prison. However, Luciano continued to run the family business from prison, relaying his orders through acting boss Genovese. During World War II, the U.S. government struck a secret deal with imprisoned Luciano. The government was concerned with sabotage by German and Italian agents through the New York waterfront. Luciano accepted to help, providing intelligence of his organization which controlled the city docks. Furthermore, he negotiated with his mafia contacts in Sicily for the landing of the American troops. In exchange for his services, the very same Thomas Dewey who had prosecuted him, who was now governor of the state of New York, commuted his sentence at the condition he would not resist deportation to Italy. Luciano continued running his organization from Italy, where he lived quietly until 1962, when he died of a heart attack at the Naples airport while meeting an American film producer to discuss a movie about his life. With Luciano deported to Italy, Frank Costello, his longtime friend and official consigliere of the family, became the official boss of the Luciano family. During the reign of Frank Costello, the Luciano family controlled much of the bookmaking, loan sharking, illegal gambling, and labor racketeering activities in New York City. Costello wanted to increase the family involvement in lucrative financial schemes. He was less interested in low-grossing criminal activities that relied on brutality and intimidation. Nicknamed the Prime Minister of the Underworld, Costello controlled much of New York waterfront and had tremendous political connections.
You never wanted my friendship, and you were afraid to be my debt.
The character Vito Corleone in the 1972 film The Godfather is loosely based on Frank Costello. The Corleone character featured similar mannerism, including a raspy voice and political connections, as well as many events from his real life.
When did I ever refuse an accommodation? All of you know me here. When did I ever refuse? Except one time. And why? Because I believe this drug business is going to destroy us in the years to come.
Like Costello, Don Corleone disapproves of drug trafficking, which he labels a dirty business. Marlon Brando, who played Corleone, apparently used tapes of Costello to mold his character.
What about you, the church? Even the police departments that have helped us in the past with gambling and other things are going to refuse to help us when it comes to narcotics. And I believe that.
Costello's aversion to selling drugs was not shared by Vito Genovese, a known drug dealer who had covered the position of acting boss from 1936, appointed by Luciano himself after he was sentenced to 30 years in prison. Only a year later, in 1937, Genovese was forced to flee to Italy to avoid trial for murder. Costello then seized power and became boss of the most powerful family in New York. In 1947, plagued by depression and insomnia, Costello went to a psychiatrist. The real event inspired the 1999 movie Analyze This, where the infamous mobster played by Robert De Niro seeks the help of a psychiatrist played by Billy Crystal.
He's a very powerful guy. Never had trouble dealing with nothing. Now all of a sudden he's like falling apart. He cries for no reason. He can't sleep. He can't be with his friends. All of a sudden he gets nervous around them. He wants to get away from them. And these are guys he knows his whole life, you know. It's like, and then he has like these like attacks, you know. He can't breathe. It's like gets dizzy, chest pains, you know. It's like he thinks he's gonna die or something.
Panic attacks.
What's it with you guys and all this fucking panic attack? Who said panic? Who said panic?
The psychiatrist advised Costello to widen his social circle, to become friends with nice people. He ruled for 20 peaceful years, but their quiet reign ended when Genovese was extradited from Italy back to New York in 1957. At the same time, the Mangano family instead was plagued by internal strife between Vincent Mangano, boss of the family, and Albert Anastasia, the underboss. Mangano felt uncomfortable with Anastasia's close ties to Lucky Luciano, Frank Costello, and Joe Bonanno, and other top members outside his family. In April 1951, Vincent Mangano disappeared without a trace, while his brother Philip was found dead. No one was ever charged in the Mangano brothers' deaths, and Vincent's body was never found.
And quick!
Now, everybody knows that Anastasia, he's crazy. With him, it's always kill, kill, kill. Hit him, hit him. Boy, I didn't think I'd have a chance at the judgment.
What's wrong with you, Valachi?
After their disappearance, Anastasia, who had been serving as acting boss, met with the commission. Anastasia claimed that the Manganos wanted to kill him, but did not admit to killing them. With Costello's prodding and Joe Bonanno's blessing, the commission confirmed Anastasia's ascension as boss of the Mangano family. Costello wanted Anastasia as an ally against the ambitious and resentful Genovese, while Bonanno simply wanted to avoid a gang war. Soon after his return in the United States, Genovese was acquitted of the 1936 murder charge that had driven him into exile. Free of legal entanglements, Genovese started plotting against Costello to regain control of the Luciano family. But in order to do that, he also had to get rid of Anastasia, who was a Costello close ally. Genovese sought the assistance of the Mangano crime family underboss, Carlo Gambino, who saw the opportunity for himself to also become boss. On May 2, 1957, as Costello was walking to the elevator in the lobby of the Majestic, his Manhattan apartment building, he was shot in the head by Genovese drivers and protégé Vincent Chin Gigante. Before taking the shot, Gigante called out, "This is for you, Frank." On hearing this, Costello turned his head as his shot was fired. Gigante fled the scene, thinking the fallen Costello was dead. However, Gigante's unintentional warning had saved Costello and left him with only a scalp wound. Vincent Gigante went into hiding, but turned himself in to the police a month later.
Did you give yourself up because you were afraid?
No, you're crazy.
But the experience convinced Costello to retire from the family. Genovese then became boss and changed the name of the family to the Genovese family.
Son of a bitch.
On October 25, 1957, several masked gunmen murdered Anastasia while he was sitting in a barber shop at the Park Sheraton Hotel in Manhattan. As Anastasia sat in the barber's chair, 3 assassins rushed in and riddled Anastasia's body with bullets. Allegedly, the murder was carried out by a crew led by Crazy Joe Gallo of the Profaci family, who was trying to make a name for himself. At one point, Gallo boasted to an associate of his part in the hit, "You can just call the 5 of us the Barbershop Quintet." With Anastasia's death, Carlo Gambino became boss and changed the name of the family to the Gambino family. Finally, Vito Genovese decided to organize a Cosa Nostra conference to legitimize his new position and that of Gambino in Appalachian, New York. The Appalachian meeting attracted over 100 Cosa Nostra mobsters from around the nation. However, local law enforcement discovered the meeting by chance and quickly surrounded the farm where the meeting was taking place. As the meeting broke up, Genovese escaped capture by running through the woods. Cosa Nostra leaders were chagrined by the public exposure and bad publicity from the Appalachian meeting, and generally blamed Genovese for the fiasco. Wary of Genovese gaining more power in the Mafia Commission, Gambino used the abortive Appalachian meeting as an excuse to move against his former ally. Gambino, along with former Genovese bosses Lucky Luciano and Frank Costello, and the Lucchese crime family boss Tommy Lucchese, allegedly lured Genovese into a drug distribution scheme that ultimately resulted in his conspiracy indictment and conviction. In 1959, Genovese was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison, where he died in 1969. With Genovese in jail, Gambino quickly built the family into the most powerful crime family in the United States. He was helped by Meyer Lansky offshore gaming house in Cuba and the Bahamas, a lucrative business for the Cosa Nostra. In 1964, Joseph Joe Bananas Bonanno, the head of the Bonanno crime family since Maranzano's murder, and Joseph Magliocco, the new boss of the Profaci crime family, conspired to kill Gambino and his allies in the commission. However, the man entrusted with the job, Joseph Colombo, instead revealed the plot to Gambino. The commission, led by Gambino, forced Magliocco to resign and hand over his family to Colombo, while Bonanno fled New York, thus further consolidating Gambino's power within the 5 families.